10.4. Okay, so in math, our ultimate goal is to solve equations, right? Chapter 9, we solved some quadratics, not all of them, okay? If they were in a certain form, we were able to solve them, okay? When they're in standard form using the quadratic. Quadratic is something you have to remember and apply correctly, okay? So we're looking at now solving a polynomial, meaning find the value of your variable, when it's in factored form, okay? So what is factored form, right? So factored form just means your polynomial is written as a product. Okay? So something like 3x minus 4 times x plus 2 equals 0 would be factored form. Okay? So we want a product of 2 or more linear factors. Okay? So that's one factored form. Another example would be x plus 3 times 2x minus 5 times x minus 8 all equal to 0. Okay, this is the key, is that they want to be equal to 0. Okay? Because if you recall, when you have the product of 2 factors and their product is 0, then one of the factors has to be 0. That's called the zero product property. Okay? Tells us that if we have A and B are real numbers, okay, then if their product is 0, so if A times B equals 0, then we can say that A has to be 0 or B has to be 0. It's the only way to get a product of 2 numbers to equal 0, is if one of your numbers is 0, or one of your factors, okay? So we're going to be able to then take our factored form and say, well, it's a product of 2 factors. Their product equals 0, then one of the factors has to be 0, and solve for x that way, okay? So let's see how that is done. All right, so we're looking to solve, right? Solve means find x or y or whatever your variable is. So we're looking to solve x minus 4 times x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, what's a product? It's a product of 2 factors. So either this factor has to be 0 or this factor has to be 0. So then we can say that x minus 4 is 0 or x plus 1 is 0. These are just linear factors. We know how to get x by itself. So here we're going to solve for x. So we're going to add 4 to both sides and get that x is 4. Or here, we solve this one. We're going to subtract 1 and get that x is -1. So we get 2 answers or 2 solutions for x, okay, using the zero product property. It's already factored for us. Then set each factor equal to 0 and solve, okay? How about if it's something like the next one, right? X plus 8 quantity squared equals 0, right? Still looking to solve for x. So you could take the square root, right? Which would just be that this linear term. So then we're going to say that x plus 8 is 0, because the square root of 0 is 0. And then solve for x, so subtract 8 from both sides, and we get that x is -8. Okay? So you do this for however many factors there are. There are 3 factors. Set each one equal to 0 and solve for x. There are 10 factors. You would set each one of those equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay? So let's say 3x minus 2 times 4x plus 3 times x plus 4 equals 0. Okay? Again, it's a product with the product of 3 factors this time. So then each factor has to be or could be 0. So then we would say, okay, well this one could be 0. So 3x minus 2 equals 0. Or this one could be 0. So 4x plus 3 equals 0. Or the last one could be 0. X plus 4 equals 0. All linear factors, so now we can solve for x on each of them. This one we're going to add 2 first. Remember, we're farthest away, so 3x equals 2, and then divide by 3. So we get x equals 2/3. That's our first possible solution. Okay? Then we're going to do the next one. Solve for x. We're going to subtract 3 first. So 4x equals -3. Then we're going to divide by 4. So x equals -3/4. Or the last one, x plus 4, get x by itself. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides and get x equals -4. So 3 answers for this one because we have 3 factors. Okay, just set each one equal to 0 and solve for x. All right, so what does this all mean, right? We're going to put it all together. It's going to help us graph our polynomial functions, okay? So for any quadratic polynomial, so anything that looks like ax squared plus bx plus c. If one of these statements is true, all of these statements are true, okay? So if we say that x minus p is a factor, okay, then we can say that x equals p is a solution, and that tells us that p is an x-intercept. Okay, so if it's in factored form and you've solved for it, you've found an x-intercept, or a place where the graph is going to cross the x-axis. Okay, so it's going to help us to sketch the graph. So first, we're going to go ahead when it's in factored form and find the solutions. Because those tell us the x-intercepts. Okay, then once you have the solutions, you can find the x-coordinate of the vertex. Because quadratics, so when it's x squared, are symmetrical about the vertex, that tells us that the x-intercepts are the same distance from the vertex. Okay, so to find the vertex now, you're going to average your x-intercepts. Okay, so the average means you take your x-intercepts and add them together and then divide by 2. And that's the x-coordinate of your vertex. Then you can find the y-coordinate by substituting the x-coordinate in. And then that's all you need. You don't need to make a table from there because you have your x-intercepts and your vertex. Okay? So let's go ahead and make a graph to see how you use that. So it's already in factored form for us. Okay, we haven't learned how to do that yet. We will in the next couple lessons. So y equals x minus 4 times x plus 2. Okay, so we're going to find our x-intercepts. So that means we're looking for solutions. Okay? So we're going to take our equation and set it equal to 0. So 0 equals x minus 4 times x plus 2. Then solve. So x minus 4 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. Get x by itself, so we're going to add 4, and we're going to subtract 2. So our x-intercepts are at x equals 4 and at x equals negative 2. Okay? Then you want to find your vertex. So average your x-intercepts. Okay, so we're going to take 4 plus negative 2 and divide by 2. So the x-coordinate of your vertex is at 1. Then the y-coordinate, you just plug this in. So y equals 1 minus 4 times 1 plus 2. So 1 minus 4 is negative 3 times 3, and you get negative 9. So your vertex is at 1, negative 9. Okay, so keep these in mind for your graph, because you're going to graph your intercepts and your vertex and make your curve. Okay, so then put it on a graph. All right, so draw your coordinate plane. I'm making it fairly large because I know that my vertex is at 1, negative 9. And my x-intercepts are at x equals 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And negative 2, so 1, 2, there are my x-intercepts. Vertex is at 1, negative 9 here. There's 3 points, that's all you need. So we're going to connect them with a curve. So here, because we know it's a quadratic, and we've made our graph. No need to do the negative b over 2a and making a table. Find your x-intercepts and your vertex, and that's enough for your graph.